Hello everyone and welcome to today's analysis video. I'm Toby and well, as you can see in the bottom of the screen here, phase 3, week 5, day number 2 of PEL. It's going to be extremely interesting for the first time in a while actually, I've had time to sit down and watch all of it. Normally I get to see bits and pieces because I'm doing a lot of other stuff at the same time, but now, last night, I actually got to sit down and watch not every single second of every single game, but practically all of it. Which, of course, gives a different type of insight. We won't be as, oh, will they do this, will they do that, this analysis video, because I know what they did. But instead, we can talk about what they did and maybe why they did what they did in certain situations. So it's going to be a little different. It's not going to be me trying to predict what teams are going to do. It's maybe gonna be more us talking about why teams do the certain things that they do. I hope that makes sense. But nonetheless, let's start with game number 1 of Miramar. If you guys are new to the channel, as you might be able to see, there's a 1 million billion analysis of things on the channel. So watch all of them if you want to know. I do PEL, I do PKL, the Korean League, I do PCL, the Chinese League, I do NPL, the American League. A lot of analysis if you are into that. And also, for those of you guys in the chat on Twitch, of course, if you want to watch it on Twitch, you're always welcome to tune in. The link is in the channel below or in the description. And Edu, I mean, you can talk whatever language you want to, but I don't speak that many languages. I speak a few languages, but I'm not fluent in Spanish, if that's what it is. So so you're welcome to talk whichever language you want to. But nonetheless, let's get going. I'm gonna start the plane. Pretty straightforward one. I mean, with a plane like this on an EU scene, pretty much everyone can go where they want to. 7, they're going north this time around. They could probably have flown south, but they don't want to contest anything with Gamer Legion. Seems fair enough. And yeah, there isn't really. HC takes a bike. Oh, that's an interesting circle. But just before that happens, we don't really see anyone go places that they wouldn't normally. Navi, no reason to try and fly over. You can just take cars and go up. Of course, they haven't seen this circle pop, so that's what their plan is. And for all the other guys, just getting to your positions. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. But then, of course, the western circle does pop, and right off the bat, I mean, no one's gonna obviously rotate through San Martin. And this whole hillside is also pretty tricky to traverse through. There's been a lot of these western circles already. Of course, FaZe, they're going to sit themselves down in the little house down there. But there's been a lot of circles in the northwest. And that makes things interesting, mainly because teams don't want to be too predictable. I mean, if, let's say you're Desperados and you're coming from the south, if you always know exactly where all your opponents are in these circles, it makes it so much easier for you to play a certain play style. If you can come in from the south late and be like, yep, I know FaZe is here, I know Knights is here, I know these guys are there, I know they're there. It makes it so much easier for you to do certain things. But then when you have that one team that does something different than what you thought they would, that can screw up everything, right? And there are certain teams like that who either A, on purpose, try to do something different, or maybe they just also on purpose never really do the same thing. So maybe they have like a plan they normally stick to, but then once or twice they'll go to something else. Or else there's some of those more joker teams, I guess you can say, where you don't really know, like you can't really expect what they're gonna do. I'm talking about 7. They are really hard to predict. DA sometimes can be extremely hard to predict, and some of those teams that try out different things haven't really found their footing, and that can be really hard for other teams who might know exactly what they want to do to really play around. Liquid gonna go center. Gamer Legion say, oh, FaZe, you ain't getting that. As you can see, as we thought, Gamer Legion wanted to, FaZe wanted to take the compound. They don't get it this time around. Gamer Legion, they know, they've been here before. They know these games always go into this compound. So let's just stay down here. As you can see as well, posts are not really contested. This field, of course, is not really where you want to be. NIP lose 3 players trying to get the rotation going. I think it was actually Tixu or Mise over there who just completely slaughtered NIP when they come rotating around. So new circle pops, and we go out east. So all this in unplayable area No problem anymore. We can go out east. But what can you really play in a circle like this? That's what we get to, right? Because you have this field that as long as all these high hilltop positions are in, you can't really do anything out here. It's just suicide to go in here. I mean, you can hide in a wood shack. You can try and prone behind your car, yes. But is that what you want to do in circle 2? Most likely not. So if you're currently sitting on the western side, like a lot of these teams are, you have El Pozo, which is blocking off a lot. Then you have this field, which makes it hard to travel east. And then do you want to drive down by this road when you know this compound is probably taken and this one is too? Most likely not either. So you have pretty much got a roadblock all from here all the way up to here. And you can see for the guys out east, that forces them to either, I mean, you could argue that Monte is a roadblock too, right? So for the teams that are out here, either they have to go all the way below, which is of course going to take time, or you have to go all the way around. But do you then really want to pin yourself up here, or do you then have to go all the way around the crater? As you can see, I mean, these craters up here, El Pozo as well, it makes it really, really, really hard to really transition from from the west side of the circle over to the east that the circle has hard shifted towards. So G2, plenty of space. TSM, high ground and low ground, we've talked about it over here before. That's how you want to play these areas. G2, plenty of control on their side. Knights, most likely going to stay in their compound, I would assume. And then DA as well, split on the southern side. They'll have a chance to make a move. See Mithralia is going back down. They'll probably make their way up towards Sixmo. N47, well, they go inside the shack, and now Mithralius gets caught off. He tried to rotate up, didn't hear N47 rotate in underneath. And in the meantime, we see Phase and Reciprocity, another teams who talked about it. You can't bounce through here. Either you go up here, which is very narrow, so if you're forced into a fight, it's going to be easy for these teams to hold you. So either you're down here, or you have to wrap all the way around the northern side, because you don't want to go through the crater. Ratio H go up there, and then Reciprocity and Phase run straight on top of each other. The fight escalates. I think as well the Shift gets, he gets like a double nade knock in on towards him. Uber left alone, and Reciprocity, I mean, with the circle shifting, there's no reason really for them to put more effort into try and find the last player. Yes, it would be good to get the extra kill, but circle shifted away from them. There is more immediate things they have to focus on. And this circle in particular, I mean, how do you play this if you're not inside it yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do we count Gaxi as a team? I don't know. But 6, 7, 8 at least teams are currently outside the circle. But most importantly, if you draw it up like this in a diagonal, they're all outside the circle on the same side of it. So coming in from up here is going to be close, like near impossible for teams. Maybe Desperados can try and wrap around. But there's going to be a lot of open space up on this side that teams can't really get to, no matter how they're planning on doing it. And rotating over this hilltop is really hard too. So pretty much from like out on the edge, unless if you rotate to blue and go all the way around, which is even that is somewhat suicidal, you're most likely going to have to fight on foot. Main issue is once these compounds are taken and they can sit kind of in the comfort of their buildings, these hilltops become practically impossible to play. If you're in the open, trying to push on foot, either way, honestly, it becomes extremely difficult for you to do anything without getting third-partied. So for all these teams that are currently outside the circle, it's going to be very, very difficult to find a footing inside. Let's see what they do. Knights, they sat down here, realized there was an open spot up and above them, so they can push further forward. TSM, full speed forward. They know we just got gifted. We need to get the hell over on the eastern side because they knew there was no one over here early. I mean, with the position they were in, with how they rotated from over by water treatment and Hacienda over towards the circle, they knew for a fact that there was no reason for them to expect people to be around in this area, because who would be sitting here with this circle first of all, and then this shift? There would be no one here. Now, yes, by the time the circle gets full on over there, there will be. But why would anyone transition to this? Maybe 1 or 2 players, but not a full team wouldn't commit to this yet. But once this circle shifts, that's when you know, if we want to have anything over here, we need to go, and we need to go now. Because right now they're sitting, well, they're not exactly in a bad spot as far as the circle, but we all know these high mountain tops, difficult to do anything from, and they tend to shift away from them when the circles allow for it to. So TSM, they say we need to get something. If not here, then here. They've played this compound before. TSM has won games from here before. There was a game where Iroh sat and held the top. They held up an IP. They ran up. They won the game. Really good performance by them. And of course, if you have a success at doing something once, well, I mean, if it's possible to do it again, might as well try and see if you can do that. The only team that successfully wrapped all the way north around in this game, you can see Ratio Edge, they were far up north with the first circle shift. See it here. Ratio Edge and Reciprocity. They were both up north on the first shift. Now watch what happens. Instead of crossing around the back, Ratio Edge cuts inward. They get the spot inside. Reciprocity, cut inward. The only team that wrap to a full extent because Liquid want to do it, but they run into Na'Vi. Na'Vi are wrapping all around the side. They've played up here before. Normally these circles, they like to split over on this side, but they've played up here before, so they go over the top and push up here. Liquid was denied the rotation because they ran into Na'Vi, but Na'Vi get up here. Keep that in mind. Just keep in mind that Na'Vi is the only team that actually makes that full committed northern rotation around. And now with this circle popping, obviously they can go take a center position, and all of a sudden they're sitting pretty well in it. Now this is where we were before, right? This is exactly where we were. I do not know what you just wrote, Mark, but I hope for you that it made sense as well. So Ents, they're going over the top, trying to spread out, get control. TSM, they want to take the compound too. Gustav gets found. Unfortunately, his vehicle makes like a little flippy thing when he hits the rock there. And now for TSM and for G2, not really for Ents, but at least for G2 and for TSM, they're in lockdown positions. You are now in a spot. Pansy actually said it extremely well on the cast yesterday. These compounds are really good for cover, but unless if the circles end there, they are, if not impossible, then very close to impossible to leave, because there are so many high ground positions around the compounds that you know for a fact your vehicles, unless if you have a bike inside a house, then your vehicles will most likely get popped. And even if you get that long, like that far into the game, that you need to use a vehicle anyway, odds are that there's going to be a team there, a team there, a team there, a team there, and you won't get to drive very far. So these circles can last you only as long as you're inside the circle for, and I guess we'll get to see that too. This circle of compound, of course, is somewhat of a priority spot, but it was a really nice observation, but like a really nice info provided by Pansy. I really love that. Circle hard shifts down towards G2. We knew it's gonna shift away from here, and so the shift is kind of expected. Now G2, and we've seen Liquid play this compound before, where I think they got a third place in the beginning of the season. We can see them. They're coming from here, N47, same exact plan. We actually saw a game where Desperados, N47, and was it I don't remember now, but Liquid were sitting just like we see G2 right now. 2-1-1 split. 2-1-1 split. And once this circle popped, what they did instead was they said, good, right now technically we have 3 compounds. They're on top of each other, yes, but it's 3 compounds. So with this circle shifting, it's circle 5, it's going over towards us, or circle 4, it's going over towards us. We cannot sit this wide and expect to stay alive, first of all, but also we cannot sit this wide and expect not to get breached by anyone. So what Liquid did was that they said, you know what? We don't want to cross the road all the time because we'll have to if we want to traverse between the compounds. What we'll do is we'll just commit to 2 of the buildings. So they completely gave up this. They left this and they said, good, then we play 2-2 here. And then if anybody comes towards us, it's FaZe. FaZe was the last team that crashed. If anyone comes, then we can try and see if we can force them to go here instead of going up to either of these 2. And even if they do go to one of the 2, then at least we will have a chance to fight because we're now closer to each other. What does G2 do here? When the pressure is coming, more and more teams, they heard these cars come up here. You can see Chris starts to shoot. Ray Shirts comes over, and now Chris runs across. Takes the vehicle. Now they're playing 2-2. But they're playing 2 men in the one that, looking at the circle, it would have been different had it been a circle that shifted from east, and this shift was on the western side. But when you look at it here, if you're sitting up here, there's no reason to crash down. If you're sitting up here, there's no reason to crash. But everyone out here will be crashing. And if you're coming from anywhere on this side of the circle towards this compound, how would you ever crash this? Obviously, that's not going to happen. But where would you go first? Into this? Or into this? My bet is that the majority of people would be crashing this if they come from down here. They'd go in here. So they make room, in my opinion, in the wrong compound, if that makes sense. I mean, they still play the backside, but I think these two are much easier to play together than these two are. Now let's see. 7, crash in. All of a sudden, you got 3 teams, Nillas and Yanis, simply not moving fast enough. Because that was another thing. When Liquid went from playing 2-1-1 to playing 2-2 instead, and no one down here, once the last team pushed, they were already crossing. And then they played 4 guys on one side. Nillas and Yanis, not at all fast enough. And while trying to cross, one player gets knocked, does get back up, and now they're 4 guys here again. So technically, G2, with a little variation, plays this compound very similar to how we saw Liquid do it. And for now, at least, they managed to stay 4 guys alive. It's just interesting to see. It's the exact same compound, somewhat similar situation, but priority on which positions to play is a little different, alongside how and when they decide to leave or push certain areas. Now, Reciprocity still up on the northern side with Navi. They need to, I mean, neither of these two teams can do anything before they've dealt with each other. They need to kill off each other before they have any chance of doing anything else. Now, the circle, once again, includes the compounds. TSM is on the edge, but they're still in. But the hilltop is in, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams somewhat on the edge of the circle. Grow Crowd, they need to, I mean, they can't really push down here at this point. They pretty much need to take it up the hill. And that's exactly what they do. This is going to be a cluster because they all have to wrap around this way. They don't want to, neither of these guys want to take fights with each other while these guys can just sit in their compounds and shoot at them. So they all have to wrap around this way rather than try and go down there, which of course becomes a cluster. Ends there on the edge. They need to either get a really, really good hard shift or try to do something else from where they are. Desperados end up being the ones, who get out of this situation alive. Good job on their part. Now the circle hard shifts north, and worst of all, it goes away from pretty much all the compounds. Well, TSM can still sit in, but it's not exactly the circle majority that they would have hoped for in this position. Navi gets a hard shift. They're of course going to be happy with that. Ends full speed forward. They knew they had to cross eventually, and either you cross when everyone else is crossing, and that's going to be chaos, or you simply just try and make a move early and get to the other side and well, I mean, they make it and they survive for a while, but of course it's not only having 2 guys alive, not the optimal scenario. But then again, I mean, what could they really have hoped for in that situation? G2 try to cross, doesn't work for them. They all go down. Ratio Edge manages to hold off 7 as well. So Ratio Edge are the ones winning. And again, they were the team that had the compound on the right side. So obviously, it's quite a bigger chance for them to succeed in doing this than anyone else. And then this becomes a little bit of a stalemate. TSM tries to push up, doesn't really work. Navi all of a sudden has all the vision and all the info in the world to hold everyone off. It drags out for a little while longer. It just becomes like a 1-2 fights. Navi still 4 guys alive with all the vision in the world, and they end up winning the game with, I believe, something like 15 kills. 10, 15, 17 kills actually. Right? Math, Toby, let's go. 7, yes, 17 kills. Very impressive game from Navi. And it all really sprung, I mean, of course the circles in the mid game helped them, because had this circle gone when they came up here, had it hard shifted down here instead, it would have been a whole different outcome. But it still came off of them rotating north around. Realizing, again, we've talked about these things before, but Navi realizing where the pressure is and then make a move to avoid it. When do you ever see Navi fight early game? That never happens. Never happens. They avoid it on purpose. So a smart play by Navi to get themselves a win in game number 1, and that's going to take us over to game number 2. And again, as I said, this is not really analysis in the sense of us trying to guess what they're doing. It's more analysis in the sense of us knowing what they do, but trying to figure out how or why they do certain things. Now let's see. New plane, pretty decent. I mean, everyone can pretty much go where they want. If you want to go far south, not exactly the easiest get to. So Desperados, instead of going towards Impala, they'll go to Macero. We've seen that before. G2 there, ends, they're going to go up north instead of south. DA up there as well. 7, Navi up here too. So a little more northern contested, obviously, due to the plane path. And then we have the southeast down here be completely open. Once again, circle over to the same area. And that's, I mean, you just saw it. You just had a game where it went there. And, and again, this compound, all of a sudden now it's even more in the center. We all know, for some reason, somehow, they all tend to go down into this area. It didn't happen last game, we went up here. But I feel like everything within these roads have happened a lot lately. I would like to see how many Miramar endings in PEL we've had within this area. Or like within... Alright. Yeah, within this area. I would love to see how many PEL endings we've had up here. Now let's see. Best of luck, gonna go up, get looting. Again, Navi not really in a hurry to do anything. They can go center, but they know there's a El Pozo team. They know 7 is around. They know NIP is here too, so they can't really go contest a whole lot. Ray shares, they're gonna rotate over the northern side. No reason to try and push through down here. Again, they know they're beat to it by their position. DA gets spotted out. They might get some kills here. No. Yes, they do. They get the kill on towards Gongor. And again, we've talked about this before. Nobody there. Nobody inside El Pozo. Nobody in the fields, obviously. And then everyone is waiting for that next circle to pop face. They're hard committing to the compound, but they do have 2 up. Normally, what we've seen them do before is Fuzzface play alone down here, 2 up top, and 1 over here. And then you have, I believe it was 8C and Mexi. Or was it 8C sitting here, Fuzzface playing down here, and then Mexi and Uber up top, so they could kind of jump between the two depending on where they were needed. But here, obviously, N47 managed to get the compound, so FaZe can't really do that. So they play 2-2 instead, rather than just keeping all 4 guys inside the compound. New circle pops and the center's up, and again, we've seen these circles 1 billion quadrillion times before. But still, it's a new setting every time, and that's what makes it fun, right? So Liquid, they were sitting down in the warehouses. They came from Monte down here, and they roll up towards the warehouses. New circle pops. Once they see I Believe on the bike, that's right here, immediately they get going, because this position right here is going to be their gateway to the entire hill area. Like if they can run up from here, they're golden, right? They on foot, they will be able to play everything here, as long as they're close enough. If they're sitting down here and they're trying to run across, all of a sudden that's a whole different scenario. Toby as a coach? No. I have been an analyst for some teams before, gentlemen, but I'm not coaching. Not coaching anyone in particular. So Liquid, they make a smart rotation, a very quick rotation. Liquid's reaction time is, I think, the fastest in all of honestly, I think in all of professional PUBG, because it can be very different. It can be very difficult. We will, of course, we'll see it. We'll see it. I think I know exactly what they do. Something about them going down here, right? I'm pretty sure. Down there. But speaking of reaction time, something happens. Let's just break it down real quickly, right? Because then you will understand how many things have to happen before you can do something. 4 things have to happen. A guy needs to do something. Ibel goes on his bike, drives somewhere. B, someone needs to see it. I mean, you cannot react on something you don't see, obviously. So someone sees or hears it, and by the time that person sees or hears it, he has to communicate that to his teammates, or most importantly, probably to his in-game leader, who is making that decision. So he sees it, or that happens. He sees it. He says, guys, this guy is rotating away from that compound. And then the guy who is the in-game leader has to make the decision on whether to go there or not, depending on what their playstyle is and where they like to play from and all that. And look at how quickly that happens in this case. And we can do many different examples of Liquid doing these things extremely fast. Ival is in the compound. He goes on his bike. As soon as he leaves, there, he's on his bike. That's 1 second, 2, 3 seconds. 3 seconds later, we already have 3 Liquid players in the vehicle. And they're going. 3 seconds it took from seeing it, because it takes time to say they are leaving or bike leaving or something. That maybe takes, I don't know, a half second. 3 seconds from info observed, info provided, and info reacted to. Very, very, very hard to do. And Liquid, time and time again, do these things extremely well. Take a look at it tonight if you're watching PEL. Look at some of these situations, like have the map stream open and see how quickly, especially in the early game, Liquid, they rotate and make decisions. It's not always that it works out for them, because sometimes they can say, oh, let's do this, and then they do something fast, maybe without considering what an alternative could be. But very often, very, very often, it works out extremely well. And it's very impressive to watch, because not a lot of the teams will be able to do it as fast. And you can see, had they been just 2 seconds later, Nuki would have been able to be down there, because they probably heard the bike too. He was driving down there, and had they only been leaving now, he would have taken it before they got there. So very impressive reaction time. And now the fun happens. now is when all hell breaks loose in this compound, guys. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to zoom in. You probably saw this before, but in here we have 3 players from N47. They just made it over. Ival came over to help T-Bone and Page. And now, all I'm going to do is show you this. We'll just watch here for a little while. They're running around, obviously, trying to make sure that no one's coming over. They know for a fact that Liquid is nearby. I mean, they don't necessarily know that it's Liquid, but they know that a team is nearby. So if something goes wrong here, they're going to have a team on their heels. Most likely, at least. Now they're being shot at as well. So obviously, opponents are in the nearby vicinity. Uh-oh. What is this? Did you see that? Crashed it. And what better team to say, a third party opportunity? I actually thought to begin with they were just gonna take their vehicles and like crash over, but obviously that might be a little too risky. But nonetheless, the thing is, we can laugh and we can say ha 7, they made a stupid rotation. Believe me, I don't know if all, but I'm gonna say 14 out of 16 teams has at some point over the first 60 whatever games we've played now had a bad rotation. So it's not a unique thing. The only thing is, look at where 7 are. 7, they just saw this circle shift. Doink. They're sitting up here. You can see some things, but you can obviously not scout if this is free or not. Mainly because it's on the backside of a hill. They're sitting up here. And they think, okay, we're on the edge now. We were decent before. We're on the edge now. There's and I'm trying to think like a 7 player right now. We're on the edge. We know that a lot of games tend to go down and end somewhere in this area. It would be amazing if we could get something in that area. Technically, that makes pretty good sense. So what they have to work with is Edelweiss comes down, Buster comes down. They all go in their vehicles and go, guys, let's rotate. Fair enough. So far, so good. Let's rotate. We're on the edge, but we're still in the circle. We can get a better position than where we are right now. Makes good sense. Krabik stops above. I don't know if he's healing or boosting or maybe looking while they're driving. They start driving. And in my opinion, the first mistake is already made here. They go into this area. To me, let's go back. Watch the beginning of the game. How many? Let's take a look at how many players we see go through this area before circle 6. Timmy doesn't count because he flew over there with a parachute. So that doesn't count. Let's just go through it really quickly. How many players go through the red box before the end of the game. I mean, if the game ends there, obviously there's going to be players there, right? We can fast forward it even more. Crow crowd goes through. I'll explain it in a second. Here comes 7. So far, only 2 Crow crowd players and 7 has gone through the red box. Now, circle 7 or circle 6. Is it 5? I think it's 6. But nonetheless, now we get to the late game. Things are different. The only reason Crow crowd did this is because they had 2 players over here who could guarantee their safe passage on the other side. The difference to that is, up here, we have 7. And once 7 go in here, once they're in this area, you don't stop again. Have you guys ever played that game where there's like a ball floating around? Ding, 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 ding. It like goes around like that. And then you have to try and cut off parts of the circle all the time. But once you start going, you cannot go until you like hit the wall again. That's pretty much the that's the case in this area. Once you enter, you don't leave. Like, you don't stop your vehicle before you are outside somewhere. And in this case, 7, they just go, well, I guess we can find something over here somewhere. And what happens is, we'll just slow it down a bit. They start driving. All of a sudden, Tixu is there. That means, obviously, we cannot go this direction because that's where we're getting shot from. Compound is there. They realize that. And then instead of trying to stop your vehicles, I mean, at this point, you have to send it. That's the issue. They put themselves in a situation where they can't stop anywhere else. Once they are through here, they cannot stop here because they don't know how many players are up here, but someone's shot from here, so we can shoot them there as well. Once they're past this point, in what seemed like a decent rotation to begin with, they cannot stop before they've crashed something. This is a very dangerous area to go through because nobody wants to stop there. You can't scout anything from there. And they end up screwing themselves over. And I honestly don't think they took that into account, but it's just very early on a very, very dangerous rotation to take. I don't think, honestly, that they thought too much about that, to be honest, Hayes. What I would have thought is, you drive down, Krabic is slow anyway, scout, and then if you have to, you can cross. Or even better, stop up here. Scout from the shack or whatever. You have like the dip up here. Decent scouting opportunity. I know that TSM is in the city, but then if they're down here when you come in, then you just, I mean, I don't know. It's I would love to hear from Sadovnik what the thought was behind it, because it could just be it could just be, it's Sadovnik who is the ideal. It could just be them saying, we really like this compound and we will do everything in our power to play from that compound. I don't recall having seen 7 play this compound a lot, so I don't think that would be the case. But it's just confusing to me that they even go for this. I get that they want to go center, but in a circle where this is so well, had it been anywhere else on the map, the idea of crashing the center and trying to get it can sometimes make sense. But they go here for the same reason that all these other teams are already here. Everybody knows that these games have a tendency of going here. And then because everyone is superstitious and everyone is like, oh, I figured out the algorithm, they all go here expecting the circles to do so as well. And for the most part, it's also because they probably have figured out something. So if you do this play as 7, you have to expect there to be opponents. And the way they go about it, it just seems really, really sloppy. If you want to make a breach like this, you go together. Krabic, he was stopping behind for whatever reason that may be. When they get up, they pretty much get eliminated immediately. And the issue here is, as nice as it is for N47 to get free kills, they end up not really getting a whole lot. I think they only get 1 kill off of that, and they get completely screwed over by Liquid, who just pulled up next door. So this is again a situation. Yesterday and the days before, we talked about Liquid and how people were saying, oh, Toby, why are Liquid playing so bad these days? Or, oh, Toby, why, what is wrong with Liquid? And I kept saying, I don't think there's anything wrong with Liquid. Yes, they take some chances, but it's because, just like N47, you can't really blame N47 for dying here. They get breached by a team that, to me, in this situation, doesn't really know what they want to do. Because if they sat up here, if they were up here, and they said, 7, huddle up, we're going to that compound, and we're going to breach it, then they would not have gone like this. That would make no sense to me. If you want to breach a compound as a team, they would not have played it this way. I just think it's because they came to this point, and then, I mean, they got shot at from here, and then things might have gotten chaotic, and there was just kind of a follow the leader situation, you know? But N47, they're sitting here just enjoying life. And then all hell just breaks loose. I honestly don't think they were expecting to get full on crashed by 7. And then obviously Liquid are gonna push on this. And they get screwed over by it. So that's a situation where, that's what I was trying to get back to, where Liquid has been in a lot of these situations like N47 is here, where they just can't do anything about it. I mean, how could N47 have played them more differently? Yes, there were some, like, once the fights happened, there were some things where maybe he didn't hit the shots he had to, or something like that. But in, like, overall, how could N47 have played that different? I don't see how. And they get punished because of it, because 7 crashed them. And that's where Liquid over the last week and a half has found themselves in those situations where they're not really in control anymore. And that's normally what happens when you go center. And where does Liquid play from? Oftentimes the center. So when you're on the edge, and I think that's why teams like Navi, they excel in getting late game lately, because look where they are. They never commit to going to the center early on. They never commit center because they know things like these happen. They know it's hard. They know there's so much RNG in going center, because you never really truly know what's going to happen. And also, the more center you are, the more teams you'll have around you. So if the circle shifts away from you, it's going to be hard to rotate with everyone around you, right? Whereas if you're up here, it doesn't really matter where the circle goes. You're still going to have X amount of space between you and your opponents to rotate. It's just interesting that people came to me like, "Oh, Toby, why Liquid so bad?" Like, have you guys even watched the games? Yes, sometimes they lost players in early rotations, but oftentimes it was in situations. Actually, EP, he said it well yesterday after one of their wins. He said, first of all, teams are playing much more aggressive. I think it was actually James who said that. And then he said teams have started playing the spots that we normally go to. And that's ENCE syndrome all over again. ENCE, they were so dominant in phase 1 for doing a lot of really smart things. Then all of a sudden, teams start doing what ENCE do, and if ENCE haven't come up with something new in the meantime, then that's not going to work anymore. And if the issue is that Liquid used to play positions that everyone plays now, then they have to come up with something else, which it seems like worked out for them yesterday. But that was a long explanation on something that I hope you all found at least somewhat interesting. I know you guys wrote a lot. I think you're mainly talking with each other. So I'm gonna go through this game, and then I'll read through the chat afterwards. In any case, we see teams in the same areas as we normally would in these circles. Again, this area is not contested. Krabic is by himself, but yeah, that's what it is. A lot of open space on a lot of areas of the circle. This one, boink, goes to the place no one had thought it ever would. Right on top of the compound phaser in. Who would have guessed? What route should 7 have taken? I don't think the route necessarily was a bad idea. I mean, yes, sorry. I don't think where they wanted to go necessarily was a bad idea. The only issue is, and I'll do this fast so we can move on. The only issue is that they make it so much harder for themselves than they had to. I know they have to hurry to get to the position they want to go to. But as I said, going through this field, you kind of... this is going to be a weird analogy, but you kind of take off your... You know how when you learn how to drive a bike, you have those small wheels on the side. You kind of take off those wheels before you learn how to drive a bike. Does that make sense? So you have no backup. There's no safety. There's no exit plan. You kind of just say, this is what's going to happen and it's going to work. And then when it does, and when you're about to fall, you don't have those wheels on anymore and you get fucked. And because they decide to go like this, they get fucked. Once they see these guys pull up here, once they start getting shot at here, you might think, okay, well then maybe this is not the smartest thing to do. But what's the alternative? Yes, they could just turn to the side, and that's all hindsight. We can all say they should just have been here. But they should just never have been there to begin with. Either you scout to the right, or you... I just don't think they had the information they needed in order to make a play on this, because they don't know, technically, they have no idea if there's anybody in this compound before they're here. If these guys haven't started shooting, if they have not pushed up the hill, they don't know. Like, this is completely unknown, blind territory for them until they're right there. And in a rotation this far, that is very committed and very scary. That is what Hayes also wrote as a completely blind rotation. And I don't think they needed to do that back then. But now let's see. New circle pops. DA, they're moving around the western side. They don't want to force anything. Navi, as we said, playing on the edge. No reason for them to over-aggress. They want to have position rather than terrain position rather than circle position. So they go up high where they can see forward. DA trying to wrap around underneath. Reciprocity, they're on the Monte side of things. We can see again this whole terrain here where we know a lot of the games like to go. Once you're within this, you can kind of traverse through all of it, and that's why we see so many teams in here. Once you're on the right side of the road, once you're away from the field, this whole hill formation, I'm not saying you can run from here to here without getting shot at. I'm just saying once you're in here, you can play it all on foot, technically. Yes, there's going to be teams around you, but then you're not relying on having those crazy vehicles. Gotta love the DA rotation. I mean, this rotation was super smart. Really, really smart rotation from DA in going down here from the northern side. Because they played it super... Like, they knew exactly. They were sitting up here. Circle shifted south. That's gonna be suicide, because then we have to go through that field, right? This is gonna be super contested, so why not just bounce all the way around? It makes... To me, that makes perfect sense in this situation. Perfect sense for DA to play down here. Now, Beautiful goes up on the hill, scouts forward. He might see that these two are open. Of course, it depends on the circle. Now it moves further forward. They see one of the reciprocity players leave, and now they can start driving. Again, perfectly good sense to me. ENS and TSM, I think they're reaching a point with the circle shifting away where... I mean, first of all, TSM is only 2 players alive, so it's limited what they can do anyway. But this is going to be the only playable spot, and it's not even that playable for them in this circle. And they know they're next to each other. Whoever gets there first wins. That's the case. You see them driving, they're all committing to pretty much the same position, initially at least. They stop on the way there, end up taking them down. I believe, doesn't Iro and Gustav go down there? Oh, maybe they survive for a little while longer. So, DA, I think, either this is 200 IQ or it's just lucky, but I'm pretty sure, with Beautiful Death sitting up here, that he sees only 2 people leave on the bikes. Because I was wondering about this rotation yesterday, but I think it actually makes sense. Yes, the shacks, or the whatever you call them, are not optimal, but in a circle like this, where you know all the priority spots are taken, you're not going to go for anything more aggressive, unless if you're 7. First of all, they see the players come in, they see a knock immediately, and instead of going down, they commit to it. I think that is a very smart decision. The fact that they then all get killed, that's of course not optimal, but I like the idea of them registering that it's a 2 guys driving across. Beautiful Death maybe spotting one gets knocked. He probably didn't because they went in the vehicle. But seeing, guys, they are only 2 people here. They are only 2 guys there. We are 3. This is going to be our best opportunity in this circle. Like, this is going to be the best play we can make. And they crash it. I think that is like the idea. Other teams would have done the same thing. Maybe other teams would have had more success, but cluster fights, I mean, it can really go anywhere. It can go anywhere. But this is, honestly, I mean, I know people go DA lul in the chats all the time, whatever happens with DA, but rotations like these are just the same that anyone else would have made. Very smart rotation. Unfortunately, as you can see, they don't really get the kills they need. But the rotation, nothing wrong with it. Crow Crowd and Navi, they're fighting on the northern side. Raise your edge, they have to come in over the hilltop. Of course, they don't want to be fully exposed. This is actually, I like it. They wrap, instead of going underneath, so they could have been shot at from the open areas, and instead of going over the top, so they could have been shot at by the compound early, they don't expose themselves before they're far enough down that they can gain full speed down the hill and crash the side of the building. Now, it doesn't work. Again, that's the exact same thing with... that's the exact same thing with DA. Rotation doesn't work. But the lead like what do you call it? What led to them going down? Like everything before they got eliminated was extremely smart. It's just they didn't win the fight when they had to. Navi get eliminated. Great hold by Crow Crowd. They end up getting quite a few kills this game, I believe. Desperados, they're trying to clear their northern side. They know if they're sitting down here and they need to go south with the next circle, wherever it goes, they cannot move in or up if there's a team up here. They're just going to be fully contained by that team, so them hearing Tixus drive up forces them to go take the fight above. Smart play by Desperado. You need to react to these things. You cannot play anything here looking inward if you have a team behind you, and the earlier you can deal with them, the more time you can spend once the circle pops on potentially going to where you have to go. Desperado, they get completely... killed. I was gonna say a swear word, but I'm not gonna do that. They got fucked. Desperados got fucked. Like, big time. Wrecked. Up there. They go down. I think it was Mise, or was it Timmy? Now I don't remember. But one of the guys completely slaughtered all of them, pretty much. With a little help. With a little help from other teams, yes. But for the most part, it was just him slaughtering people. Very impressive. There are just godlike fraggers in PUBG. I like to see it. Do I do live analysis? Yes, when I'm casting, I do. But since I'm not casting PL, obviously, I'm not gonna be doing that. I mean, I did in week 2. Good fun, good fun. Would love to do it again. Maybe next season. Who knows? We'll see. Crow Crowd, not a whole lot they could do. Try to crash the middle. They get killed. Reciprocity had the angle on them. Everyone is waiting for the next circle. G'day, mate. How are you doing? That was the worst interpretation of... yeah, I'm never gonna do that again. Hi, Flood. Reciprocity sitting pretty well in it now. And this is a situation where, obviously, you're not gonna have these guys move out to Skoom and Udyr, but at the same time, this is going to be contested. I mean, you can't sit 2 guys in here and expect to just chill for the rest of the game. Maybe if you're in China, but not if you're in EU. One knock on any of these 2 players and everyone will be pushing in towards them. Skoom and Udyr also, them not moving in means that, I mean, yes, they do have vehicles down here, I believe, at least. But they need to like play it super smart in terms of if a push comes in this way, and I think that's why they stay. If they're in here all 4, they're pretty much sitting on each their shacks, which, I mean, then it's a coin flip who wins those fights. But if they stay back until the circle forces, for example, Game Allegiance to leave, if they push in and they can stay here and get angles on them, they have a good chance. Only off chances, like only bad thing is if they then go down and whatever team pushes them survive, Skoom and Udyr will be completely contained by this area. So we'll see. We'll see how they decide to do it. We didn't really focus too much on this in the game yesterday. Everyone was looking up here, obviously, with all these teams on top of each other. FaZe, really smart timing, by the way. As we can see here, they know what teams are above them. They know that it's always Knights that sit up here, right? So they sit and wait, they wait, they wait, they shoot down towards an IP, and then that happens. And Drayton is now knocked. What does that mean? That means that Liquid is in a fight. You can see it's still in here. Liquid is in a fight with Knights. That they probably already knew, but now they know it's actually like full on. One player got knocked. In terms of Knights, what does that mean? That means that one player now needs to be dedicated to resing Drayton. You can see Snark is already there. It means that one player has to hold off Liquid, obviously, because with a player knocked, that might be them pushing further forward. And that means that Wanted even if he has the time and the awareness, I guess you can say, to focus on knights on face, it's going to be a 1v4. So knights very quickly, you see fast face immediately starts going up. They do get the res up, obviously. It takes a while for them to get up the hill, but they move up immediately. Once again, Nox coming in. They know we can't get cornered down here. We tried to hold the teams in the south, but Gamer Legion can see us, and BS we didn't get to kill when we had to. We need to make a move. It's going to be uphill because Knights are in trouble. So they make the run up. Knights, they're fully focused on trying to disengage from Liquid, and in doing so, they run into FaZe. Great situation, and great play by FaZe, and that was their only window to leave that compound, and they timed it really well. So now Liquid and FaZe on top of each other. FaZe try to kind of disengage underneath. Not easy when you have perfect angles over here. They're all sitting on top of each other. A couple of nades would be would most likely be the death of them. Liquid from above get the angle on the people below. Liquid still staying all together. Nils was just on the side, being a little nuisance to the Liquid team. Oh, Nils, I mean, yeah, Nils, he was down there. Reciprocity goes down. Still two players in the middle. 4v4, v2, v Nils. They try to take him down. Nils sneaks in from behind. And all of a sudden, it's a 4v1v1. And this is very much terrain based, so not a whole lot to analyze from it. I mean, yes, there's a lot if we could actually get in-game footage, but we don't really have access to that, so we're just gonna fast forward a little bit. They go down on the edge. Nils gets one, gets flushed. They go down, teams, and Liquid wins the game with, I believe, 15 kills, 10, 15, yeah, 15 kills. Great game from them. Once again, great disengage from FaZe. But Liquid, from start to finish, the way that they played up on the hills, when to engage, when not to, very smart playing by them. And I'm not going to say that their win was based on, but a lot of it, their position, them being allowed to play the way that they did, was based on this right here. The immediate reaction from them to push up towards Na'Vi, or N47's compound, in this case, where Ivo was. It all started there. They got up, that gave them the third party opportunity. That allowed for them to push forward and underneath. Very, very good position by N47, or by Liquid. Why didn't he shoot earlier? I think Nils knew that there were still reciprocity players alive. And when it's this late in the game, there's only 4 teams alive. You get extra placement points per placement. So Nils knows there's got to be someone still alive in here, because there's 10 players alive. There's 10 people alive, and if he knows that there are 4 people on Liquid, then there's going to be at least a couple more teams, right? Obviously, because that's only 5 players. So it has to be at least 2 more teams. He knows FaZe is alive, because obviously the kill feed showed them. So if he just wants to get a better placement, if they eliminate Monkey before they eliminate Nils, then he will get more points. So that's why. He's just chilling, proning, trying to stay alive for longer, but he goes down literally the second before Monkey does. No, he didn't want to make sound. He just tried to not do anything. I think it made sense the way that he played. I don't know if yes, of course you want to have full health, but I mean even that can like alert an opponent. And I think in his case, he just wanted to be ready to shoot in case they did turn around. So it's always fun with those snakes. They play the games very differently sometimes. But that was game number 2. We're gonna go straight into game number 3. I'm just gonna read through what you guys wrote a little earlier, because I didn't get to see all of it. It's sometimes wrong charge. Liquid. That's just statements about what Liquid do. As if this, as if that. That is you explaining things to the center of the circle. Good. We're now on point again. Am I going to do any OCE analysis? You know what, Flood? I've actually been meaning to, but I have Sightlink. Oops. I have I didn't know that I was gonna do more work this season than what I have done so far. And now I'm doing all of the wingman stuff for GLL, and I'm going to be covering the Latin American region too, which means that I'm going to be traveling quite a bit in the near future. And I was planning on doing like a sum up. I wasn't gonna do like this all the games for OCE, but after when the whole season was done with, I was planning on doing like a kind of recap, 1 or 2, maybe 3 episodes on it. I just honestly don't have the time these days. I really want to, but with everything I'm doing and trying to also make a living on the side, I simply don't have the what do you call it, the hours in a day to get it all done. But don't feel forgotten. I always like to watch a lot of the OCE stuff. I just haven't had time to do it. I'm happy for you not having the time. Yeah. Oh, no worries. I don't know. I try to be I want to get all the regions in. That's the thing. Imagine if other casters helped out in this. No, I'm just kidding. It's I'm not. There's no shade thrown in that regard. People can do whatever they want with their spare time. I just think this is extremely interesting, and I'm glad to provide you guys maybe with something you don't know. Maybe you all just spend your time watching and saying, "Oh my God, Toby doesn't know what he's talking about." I don't know. In any case, I'm having fun, so I hope you guys are too. Yeah, that makes sense, but I see that making sense. But in any case, let's go over to Sanhok. We are sidetracking a lot today. That's all right. Southern Plain. Again, it's Sanhok. You can pretty much still go where you want to. You can probably even go to boot camp without having to stretch too far with this plane. So it's not the worst plane, but it does mean that Desperados go south rather than Camp Bravo. And I think that's the only real change that we see. Yes. I'm still curious with this whole engagement. G2 and DA, they're always having a lot of fun fighting each other, but it seems to me like G2 have said, you know what, I think we've done this enough now, and now they're letting them have theirs, which makes sense to me. Desperados, they're gonna get tampang, not a tampon, and they'll get Toulouse Sammy and the east side of Nakam as well. I like that Monkey has started moving further north. They're slowly taking up more ground. Now the circle is south, and in terms of what to do, you can take boats. We've seen it. We've had these circles before. We had a similar, not a duck circle, but a similar southern circle in the Korean League yesterday. The day before yesterday? I'm not sure. No, it was yesterday, Saturday. With teams trying to make the rotations all the way around on boats, either go up there or go all the way around towards ducks. We've seen people do those things. You're going to try to avoid quarry. But overall, I mean, you just want to... You know already now. I mean, okay, you don't. But you have a 99% guarantee that it's going to go somewhere over here. And not here. Konnichiwa, Toro. Isn't that Japanese? Yeah, I think it is, right? Konnichiwa gozaimasu. Or something like that. I don't speak Japanese. I used to when I was in Japan say Sumimasen aiko ga hanashimashika, and that means, I think it means something like, sorry, do you speak English? I think that was the only sentence I used all the time, because people didn't really talk to me. I also don't think it sounded exactly like that, but something like it. But hello, I hope you're doing well. Circle pups, now we know for a fact it's gonna go right up top of quarry, because, well, it's not gonna go ducks with the water and everything. And as you can see as well, seems like teams, they kind of figured that one out beforehand. There's a lot of players up on the northern side. Reciprocity, they're staying down south. Game of Legion, they did wrap around boats we talked about. You can always cross over to ducks and make a run up from there. Knights, they're pushing in from the south. Desperados on foot still. Reciprocity to say, yep, let's clear that bridge as fast as we can. Get over into safety, and then, well, I mean, then it just becomes pretty much a compound stalemate for the most part. Compound. Doesn't really count as compound. Can we count the cape as a compound? Does that make sense? No, probably can't. Meh, they have to leave. So everyone who's inside the circle already in decent lockdown positions. TSM, they're gonna wrap out to the edge, try and clear if anyone's coming up from Painan. I like this play. Gonna take their bikes as well. Now the circle goes north. They were expecting that to happen, and they get to take more control on the northern side. So not a lot of vehicles being used, but TSM do take them to get that little 2-2 split in rather than sitting on top of each other. DA, they're gonna try and not force a fight, but play it safe on the east. Game of Legion, they came up and crossing. We all saw that early. And then of course when you have in this circle, oh actually let's wait until the next circle pops, because that's where things get a little interesting. Okay, so with this circle shift, you have two options. If you, let's say you're NIP, right? Look at what they have to play into. A, cave, uphill, uphill, uphill. Could be doable if you don't have anybody down here, which they unfortunately do. Downhill, 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 downhill. Out in the open, you can't do anything. Miles out in the open. Dead. So that's not a strategy. Over, over, over. Oh, hello there, quarry. Shut at from compound. Shut at from compound and cave. Most likely dead. So what they can do is push up, but this is a ridge line over which they cannot see. So they have to push blind up the hill to then hopefully scout something and not run into a team up there. And that's what I'm saying. That's when people ask me, oh, what do the pros think about playing Sanhok, and what do you think about Sanhok and stuff? I've come up with a thought that I think most people, if there's any competitive players out there that play Sanhok in competitive games, whether it's PEL or Opens or whatever it is, contenders, I think the mentality of a player, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, I think the mentality of a player when playing Sanhok should always be like the mentality of being in, let's say, Los Leones or any city ending in PUBG. You cannot think those 5 circles ahead and go, oh, but this and that. I mean, yes, in the beginning, in the first 2 circles, when you're waiting for that third shift, that's when you do all your rotations. But from circle 3, whenever circle 4 pops and onward, you have to play, in my book, in my mind, you have to play Sanhok like a city ending. A, there can literally be opponents everywhere. There can. We've seen that time and time again. B, you better be close to your teammates, because once the fight starts, it has to get done with so fast. Like, you have to be so fast in ending fights on Sanhok, because not only, you think about how much time you give your opponents. Once the first bullet is fired, an opposing team, especially when you're in an area this small, an opposing team will hear that bullet go off, and they will then figure out, okay, do we want to engage in that or not? Let's say a player gets knocked. By the time that player gets knocked and it pops up in the kill feed, and the opponents, let's say that's when the opponent starts running. You then have to rest the guy. That takes X amount of seconds. Then the guy has to heal. Then you most likely, maybe, have to heal as well. By that time, because everyone's so close to each other already, that opposing team will most likely be, if not on top of you, then really, really close to you. And if you haven't already by that time finished the fight with your opposing team, then you're most likely going to get sandwiched. So if you're forcing fights on Sanhok, you pretty much have to be done with, like, you have to, even if you don't win, then you have to be able to get away. You have to finish those fights within, I want to say 20 seconds. From the first bullet being fired on your opponent, until that fight has to be done with. 20 to maximum 25 seconds until you have to expect there to be another team right behind you. And that is just, when we talk about trying to eliminate RNG factors and stuff like that, that is very, very hard to cope with. Unless if you're sitting in a compound and you don't really have to worry about anything, because you can just go in the bathroom, hide, and nobody can push you. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. And hello, Tess. I hope that makes sense. How are you doing, Tess? Face, trying to split the middle. Not exactly an easy position for them to play from, but doable. They have the circle center. They know that reciprocity has to get down the hill, and they can only play this because this is theirs. We talked about NIP earlier, right? They can go up and play this because they also have control of this. Had it been another team, I believe, correct me. Now I'm trying to think back. I'm pretty sure that these guys have vision on this area. from the compound. So the only reason the Uber and HC can safely go up here is because it's their teammates that are down there. And by the time that they leave the area, they know that that's safe. And they have somewhat control of the guys up by the cave. So Circle pushes in. Now the guys that are on the northern side have one chance in saying, well, do we wrap around Quarry, go through Quarry, or wrap around Quarry? Death, death, or death. And I think for the most part, they all decide death. Uber and HC, they need to play together, need to be close to each other to have a chance to do anything, but they don't really have to fight anyone. How many kills do FaZe have at this point? 2. FaZe has 2 points at this point in the game. Everyone pushes forward. FaZe gets the circle again. Hold off reciprocity and crossing. That's the thing, right? Because HC and Uber know. Nobody, like, they play here. They play here. Nobody that is up here is going to focus on what's here because they're all so busy fighting each other. Now, of course, okay, TSM, they just killed the guys. But they don't want, like, TSM, they're not going to spend their time right now looking inward. We talked about city endings. You're not going to be looking, oh, where can I be in that next circle? Especially not when the circle is this small. You're going to be looking, where are those opponents that are around us? And where are those immediate threats? Like, what do we need to deal with now before potentially, like, because if they spend all their time right now saying, oh, imagine sitting in the center of the circle, oh, then we can do this, and how can we rotate there? Then these guys come up running, and they're not ready to take the fight. But they have to be in that constant fight mentality to say, good, now we've cleared this side. Now we need to clear this side. Now we need to, I'm just drawing. I don't think they've actually cleared this side, but you know what I mean. Clear, think of what's right in front of you rather than try to think that far ahead. So they move up slowly, make their way in. They know that side is clear. Now that the fights have kind of dulled down on the sides, HC and Uber can start focusing on the backside with FaZe focusing inward or over towards the guys down here. So where we talked about Liquid being the really wise, like in the moment decision-making teams, it seems like FaZe and the way that they coordinate, and now I don't know this for a fact because I only talk based on what I watch, but it seems like FaZe, they're so much on the same pace with how they play that, like, Fuss doesn't even, in some situations, this is not, just an example. HC doesn't even have to tell Uber, can you hold this? Because Uber is already doing that. And whenever HC goes from here to up here, he doesn't even need to tell FaZe, oh, hold my back, FaZe, because that's natural for him to already do that. So I think just the way that they play, the way they move around with each other, it seems, at least, I mean, I'm not going to say that this is pure fact, and I know this is the case. It's just the way that it's represented in how they play. They seem to always know exactly what their teammates are doing. And in circles where things can get clustered, and especially on Sanhok, where things can be really chaotic at times, that is super, super viable. Really, really important. And very, very useful. So you don't always have to constantly look at your teammates' health and where are they, and oh, can I expect him to do this if I do that? If you're on that paint, like on that synergy level with each other as a team, as a teammates, that makes things so much easier. Reciprocity, they didn't have a whole lot of places to go that whole time because the new crossing would be suicide. And now they finally fight them. FaZe had 2 kills just 3 minutes ago. Now they have 10. That is a very, very, very good game for them. And yes, they do get circles. They land, or they didn't land here, but they were down here early. They get the circles towards him. But again, as we talked about with FaZe many times before, staying alive with 4 for the longest time and playing smart in the late game. We've seen it in the Miramar wins. We've seen it now in this win as well. The way that they position themselves, very, very, very wisely done by the FaZe team. So Sanhok. Now let's go over to Erangel, as I like to call it. Erangel. I don't know, you can call it whatever you want. I've learned not to criticize people for how they pronounce things. Let's go over here and see Erangel. Game number 1 of the day. Southern Plain, right off the bat. Multi-power over Prim. What are the first takes? Like, which teams will... Which teams will do something different with the plane path? You guys can help me. It's all educational, you know? It's not only me who's supposed to know. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can maybe pause the video and think for a second. You don't have to write it in like a comment section or something, but you can think about it for a while. On this plane path, which teams will go somewhere else than where they normally go? I will give you all 30 seconds to think about that. I'm not actually counting to 30, but I'm just waiting a little, and then I'm gonna talk. Hardcan says ends. Okay. Maybe people are writing, maybe they're thinking, I don't know. In any case, we know I can come up with a couple of teams for you. A. NIP. The frightened ones. NIP, who normally go up towards George, ever since, I want to say the start of phase 2, maybe end of phase 1, they've gone here. They've kind of claimed this from Knights. That's also a very good call. Northern teams, lul. True. But I wanted to be more specific, so teams also thought who is landing where. Start of phase 1, it was that early, Dofus? Huh. I thought it was later than that, but okay, okay. Yes, of course, what did I say? What did I say? Oh no, did I say something stupid? WTSG is playing in the Korean League. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Oh, I said ends. Yep. Sorry, that's because I was talking about ends. WTSG is NIP. They were unsigned and they had that name, and now when they signed back in the day, they became NIP. I was about to troll you there, but it seemed like you asked because you actually didn't know, and I didn't wanna make you confused. So we have NIP, who will go Lipovka instead. We have ends. They could potentially try and go further north. We've seen that happen before. We have potentially, and this is what's funny, because on yesterday's games, which then I guess was the day before yesterday's games, we had circles where 7 could go to their east side Gatka split, or their, whatever you want to call it, chopstick split, but they went Novo instead. So we had a plane that went like this, kind of. And yes, they can get to Novo faster, but they also had access to their original loot spot, and they actually went Novo instead. So I guess where I thought this was priority and they went Novo if the plane was bad, then I think they just 50-50 them. So they can go with both of them. They don't have a priority over the other. Razor Edge have kind of claimed military base. Desperados go up north. N47 go Yasnaya too, so we can split this one in half. And then they've gone Primorsk other times. So there's quite a few teams that change up their paths depending on the plane in PEL. Now let's see what actually happens. So, NIP, out early. They will go to Lipovka. Ends, oh no, it's this game. I completely forgot about that. Okay, Ends and, yeah, I'd forgotten this happened. Ends, they don't go north. I think it's for 2 reasons. One being that that they know NIP will probably jump early, so they don't want to have to contest vehicles with them. And them going south, I think it's just like we talked about before. If 7 normally loots here, around that area at least, this plane, I mean, boink. It's not exactly because it's an impossible jump. They can easily go here with this plane path. But because it seems like they have started saying, we will go Novo. Like it used to be, we will go chopsticks, and then if the plane is bad, we'll go Novo. And if we can go both, we'll go chopsticks, because that's our home turf, right? But it seems like it has been turned into, we will go Novo, and if the plane is bad, we will go chopsticks. Does that make sense? So this has become like their number 1 priority, and this has become their number 2, where it was the other way before. And I'm just talking about this week alone. It seems like they've changed that up. So 7, they will just go la-di-da, let's go Novo, because they don't expect anyone to be there. And Ents will go la-di-da, let's go Novo, because obviously 7 is going to go up here. But that's not the case at all. So they will do that. Desperados, obviously, as we talked about, can't really go Severny, so they'll jump down towards military. And they will claim that from Raise Your Edge. They have had a bit of a, not a fight really. I haven't seen them fight too much on the southern side, but they've had a bit of a disagreement on who goes where, and well, it seems like for now, at least, whenever Desperados does go south too, they get to kick out Ratio Edge. And also Ratio Edge don't really have to worry, because this is normally taken by phase whenever the plane isn't the Mills of Power, so if it's like that. But since the plane pretty much came in over Mills of Power, they know that this is going to be free for them to take. N47 didn't want to go Yas, they're down in Novo. So we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half, if we count 7 as well. 5 teams that are looting, not in different positions as in, oh my god, they've never done this before, but different positions as it's, to a certain extent, a little different from the ordinary. So let's see, first circle, pop. Okay, now I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna draw this up in green. No, wait, there. Doink. Oh yeah. Doink. Doink. Whoops. Doink. 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, in a version of the game where you could go, like you don't even have a plane, you just blink, spawn in your city. The green ones would be taken by the teams in red, which means right now we have a lot of teams. We have 4 teams on Military Island down here. We have a team in Novo, so 5 teams are either in Novo or south of Novo. No, in well, I guess that too, but Prim or south of Prim. So a lot of players are down here. On the northern side, we have 2 players. Snark and MBS. Obviously, Reciprocity gonna start moving up. But since DA didn't want to go Rossak either, they went down to take 7th spot. Normally they'd go out to the west coast, kind of, but they decided to do 7th spot. It has kind of become shuffled. In like normally the focus would be somewhat northern, with teams like the majority of teams pushing south, but now it's going to be southern teams pushing north. Does that make sense? So for the teams, for example, I don't know, Liquid or Reciprocity or G2, they have to now kind of think this circle opposite. Because normally they say, okay, we'll take a position somewhere. I mean, this circle, obviously, they're sitting right in the middle. So let's say Navi instead. They would normally push into a position knowing that a lot of teams would be coming in from the north, but now it's the other way around. Just you have to keep those things in mind when you talk about the planes, the circles, all these things. What is the harshest team? Harshest? I don't know what you mean by that. Like they are rude, or rephrase the question if you can, gentlemen, and then oh, harshest plane path. I've once seen a plane go from Prim to here. That was pretty harsh. And then I've seen one that went from, I think it was something like east side Prim to Novo. We have had a few of those planes previously. Like these ones were pretty bad. Because there's a lot of eastern teams. But yeah, these ones that go like this, they're pretty crazy. They're pretty crazy. Obviously they go like that too. But let's get the game started. So with the first circle, pops, boink, and obviously the southern side, like if you split the road here, to Pachinki and out to here. North, you have X, like let's just do this. And this. And then we do that. So on this northern side, barely any compounds, you're in the open. It's practically open warfare. In the like forest warfare. On the southern side, very open. Compounds all over the place. So the circle center right now, already then, you have to figure out, if you want to go center, of course, you have to figure out if you're wanting to play open or if you want to play compound based. Both things can be good. It's very team dependent. If you go on the northern open side, you have more freedom to move around for the most part at least. If you go south, you're more locked down in your compound, but also if the circles come towards you, you're most likely going to survive longer because you already have the position. And of course, Pochinki is, I would not expect to see anyone drive through Pochinki this circle, so it's going to be north around, south around, or maybe more like south around. This is going to be a bit of a roadblock for teams coming in, maybe something like that. And then we can have teams coming there, and there, and up that way. So that's pretty much the draw up of the first circle. Let's see teams make the moves forward. And also, guys, if you haven't watched any Chinese PUBG, if you haven't watched anything from PCL and you're interested in competitive PUBG, go watch the analysis videos I've done on them. They do some very interesting things that I'm sure Dofus, he has to take notes if he sees half of the things they do. Game Legion commit to this compound, and I've always wondered why they do that. When they have this position, I mean, I don't think, do they expect G2 to... I don't know. I guess from here you have better access to pushing up into forest than you do from here. I don't know. I've just always kind of prioritized this over that, position-wise. But I guess with a circle where it's kind of center, you want to have the gateway to this, because there's not really anything to push into down here. G2 gonna somewhat split up here. TSM rotating forward. Liquid taking potato. Crow Crowd, they don't want to do anything, so they're going far north. Miles over the northern route. Straight down through DA. When did DA get here? Okay, so they landed, looted, saw the circle, and then they go back up to where they normally land. And this, I think, it's a comfort thing too. We've seen it before as well, where FaZe will go loot the southern side on Miramar, and if it's a northern circle, and instead of just going, well, I mean, it's technically faster, just go straight north, they will wrap around west to Monte Nuevo, where they normally land, so that now they can play the game as if they just started where they normally start. So they can go back to their usual playbook, if that makes sense. Decent circle, as we can, if we draw it up, I mean, pretty much everyone, if we call this the center, I'm not even gonna look down here. Am I being rude for not trying to analyze what goes on down here? I could probably do a full, like, 1 hour video on this. I'm so confused. Yep. Well, we'll let them do their thing. I can tell you they end up dying anyway, so it's not really the most important. That doesn't really have. Actually, it kind of does. I stopped myself there. I was gonna say them doing that doesn't really have any impact on this circle, on the rest of the game, but it does, because think about it. Yes, there are only one dead player, or there is only one dead player so far, but technically, with these baboons running around down here having fun, it means that we just removed 8 players, 2 full teams, from the circle. We just removed 2 full teams from this equation. Look at how much space that gives. Knights can split as 4. NIP can... Well, let's just remove the middle circle. These guys are all taking up quite a lot of space. And yes, they would have done the same no matter what. But if you throw in 2 more teams who also maybe want to go center, I know 7 that like to go center, right? So if they also want to go center, that would have impacted how these splits would have worked, and that could have had a big impact on the game itself. So even though we say this is dumb, which it is, but them fighting down here, them not having any physical influence by being here to shoot people does have an impact because all of a sudden these guys all have much more room to maneuver around than what they normally would have. Ends doesn't matter too much in that case because they normally tend to rotate in late circle 1 anyway. So they wouldn't have been in here, I think, had they been in style for this game. But 7 for sure would have probably been a lot more near the center than what they ended up being. Now new circle pops. And this, my friends, it's a fun one. What do you do here? Let's take a look at the basics. You are a team in the north. You are DA. You are Crow Crowd. You are Reciprocity. You're an IP. What is going to be the most important thing here? We can draw this circle up in 3. We'll do this. Oh, wait, actually, we'll do this. We'll do that. And we will do... Okay, so we'll draw this circle up in 3 northern parts. I quit. Just escape and disconnect. Up here, if you want to play the northern side, because everyone's like, oh, it's going to shift away from the water again. But if you stay up north, even getting through here, you have to anticipate there to be opposing teams on this northern side. So up in Potato, run on foot, expect there to be opponents around. That's not like that's how the late game normally ends up happening. Or if you run, for example, if Knights end up going this way while Reciprocity ends up going this way, they might both be wanting to go down here, but they have to fight each other, right? Down here, find a compound or else, because there's not really anything else you can play. And once you go further south than that, I don't think a lot of teams at this point are thinking of going south of... maybe I'm wrong here. I'm going to go like that. I don't think anybody in this game at this point... okay, you know what? I'll draw that compound in 2. But I don't really think that's even the case. I don't think anyone in this circle is planning on playing further south than the green line. Unless if you're down here and dying. So... Sixy could stay. Roy could stay. As you can see, he's actually leaving. But they would probably want to go for something because they're expecting the circle to bounce back up, right? So now let's see the rotations. Everyone, of course, is coming down in this direction. Don't want to get caught in the cluster. You want to be able to bring your cars. And that's the issue, right? Because you have to, in order for you to go from north down to the south spot, you have to go through that area that we just said that you have to play on foot. And they will do it as fast as they can because... we don't want to get caught up there. If we get caught north and the circle goes south, we have to play the rest of the game on foot. And by the time we get down here, we're out in the open and we have no cover and we're dead. So play it for the late game and see what you can do off of it. NIP, they're gonna, I would assume, try to rotate around the side. Ooh, as I say that though, that's not the case. Okay. They rotate into Potato. I would have thought they might have wanted to wrap somehow. Not the case. Maybe they're just staying on the edge to wait for the circle. Because I would assume they value their vehicles higher. I actually don't remember what happens to NIP this game. I just remember chaos. Because everything from very early on, the camera was pretty much only down here. In any case, raise your edge, they leave the compound. Knowing that circles tend to go away from water, these 2 alone mean that it's very limited what endgame circles this compound is in. If you have to make a circle go away from water... then the bottom half of the circle would have to be here or here, right? So you can draw a circle that's like this, or you can draw a circle that is like this on the southern side. And obviously they're going to be a lot bigger than that, but you know what I mean? So it's very, it has to really go down towards the water in order to include this compound because of the way that these 2 base, or whatever you want to call them, are. So teams value what is up here, and here, and out here, a lot higher than this compound because of these 2, whatever you call them. We'll call them base. So now let's see. 7, they're coming over late. Somehow there's still 4 guys alive after all of that. Questionable how that even ended up happening, but they do end up surviving. New circle pops, and here again, everyone is like, guys, it's going to go north. Look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams. Half the teams are chilling up here because obviously, the circle is going to go north. Well, would you look at that? This is probably one of the most troll circles I've seen in PEL this year. We've had two. We've had this one, Phase 3, and we've had that one in week 2 that ended. I think actually did NIP win that game? No, Gamer Legion won it. The one that ended down here, where the third circle also just went like yoink down on the southern side. Take care, Toro. Take care. Where the game ended down there. Those are probably the two most troll circles that we've seen on all of PEL, at least this phase alone. So this circle goes south, and all of a sudden, we have 1.5, so that's 2, 3, 4 teams inside the circle, and okay, we have 11 teams that are not inside the circle yet. 11 teams are not inside the circle. This obviously is not going to be taken by anyone, so that's out. We're not anticipating anyone to go to the water either, so we can do this. Good. All of this down here is going to be not played. Like, this is just going to be out. So, we have 11 teams that have to fit into this area. And currently, we have a team in Gamer Legion. They are sitting and saying, guys, the next circle is going to shift away from water. Why would we leave this position? Would not make any sense. So they're going to stay. Ratio Edge, well, they're kind of forced to stay because they're fighting Navi. And N47 sitting on the west side, they're probably doing the math right now and going, okay, so where can we place circle 4 in all of this where it would have as little water as possible? Because that's kind of the case, right? So they're most likely going to stay somewhat on the western side, which means we have a center, east, and a west side position already locked down by opponents. So where do you rotate through if you're coming in from the side, or from the north, I mean, sorry. You're not going to go into Pachinki. You're not going to be able to go straight down because there's opponents everywhere. And if you try to wrap around the side, well, at least for now, this compound is taken, but you don't know if it's taken or not. So that could be you completely slaughtered on your rotation. And somehow this is still open. So watch this. Once teams start rotating in, all these guys who came in late, they need to play it on foot. They can't do anything else but take the fight. You can see Reciprocity, they're already pushing over. You want to take the fight. NIP, they get to leave. Forced to go around, they crash in, take the fight to Gamer Legion. That's the only play you can make. There's simply nothing else to play around. And yes, you can go out in the shack, like out on the edges, but knowing, I'm going to remove the water again. FaZe go out to play here, but they know the next circle is going to go away from the water. The only thing is, it's very limited where you can put that circle that doesn't include some water, so they probably hope that they'll be in, kind of, on the edge, and then they know that because there's only room for so many teams up here, this is one big open area, this is a big open hilltop. I mean, you cannot fit 5 teams in this area. And this, everything from, let's just draw it up real quickly. There's a dip there that you can play in. Okay, so I'm going to draw it up something like this. In all of this, you cannot play if these 2 positions are in. It looks like a car. That's nice. But you cannot play any of this, maybe with the exception of the dip that James is kind of in right now, when these 2 positions are in. Even more so with this in play. And that goes to show down here as well. All of this becomes practically unplayable when you have this, and that position inside the circle. The entire red area, like what is within the red area, except for the areas I've marked, you can't really do anything from. Same thing up on the northern side. You can only really have one team up here. And we have so many teams trying to make their way in. So this becomes like one of those big cluster. Every man for himself. Everybody tries crashing in towards the compound. 7 wants to go center, but there's no center to take. Buster drives around like a chicken without a head and gets slaughtered. I mean, it gets shot at by, I don't know, 5 different teams. TSM, they know they need to make a rotation at some point. Now they know FaZe is trying to hold them off, and they go, what the actual beep are we supposed to do from here? Well, let's look at the playbook. And then they go to the last page in the book. Make a DA rotation. And then Gustav goes, guys, we're on page 216 in the TSM playbook. And it says here, if everything else fails, make a DA rotation. And they crash the shack without knowing if there's anyone there. I mean, what? The thing is, as much as we laugh about it, here we go, oh my god, TSM, such a smart rotation. What? 200 IQ, they get the building. There could have been 4 Liquid players here, and TSM would have been killed right there. And then everyone would be like, Omega lol, TSM, noob rotation. It's only because they get it, right? They had no way of knowing whether they could play there or not. No way of knowing at all. There could have been a team in this building, technically, with the circle popping. There could have been a team in this building, maybe even a team in this building and a team in this building. They would have no way of knowing. They just crash it and they get it. Fortunately, they get it. James is forced to leave because he hears the vehicles come in. Smart disengaged by him. But they have no way of knowing. And they get it. So, as much as people tend to laugh about, ha 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 ha, DA is trying to crash center, sometimes it really pays off. I mean, sometimes it really pays off. And honestly, I don't think DA mind this type of rotation being called a DA rotation, because I think we will see, if not every game, then and this is just a random number I'm going to throw out, but something like that, in at least 70% of all PUBG competitive games, you will see one team at some point in the game make a rotation that's a coin flip. Like, it's one of those, let's see, let's go, I hope it works. Teams do that more often than you think. It's just because it works, so teams don't, like, viewers don't think that it's what is it? What am I trying to say? Because it works, teams don't think that they YOLO'd. They think, oh, it's so smart. But believe me, oftentimes you see teams that go, you know what, we have no other plan. Like, there's nothing else we can do. Look at where they were. They know Wanted is in the shack because of some shooting at him. They know that FaZe is currently trying to position themselves to make a full-on blockade down here. And they go, guys, if we don't get through here before FaZe manage to close this door, we are legit just going to die in the blue. We have to do something. And it works out for them. So, as I said, I don't think DA minds having this being called DA rotations, because a lot of teams do them. It's just because in this case it works, so we don't really notice it as much as if they had all been exploded out in the open. So they get the compound. They can now chill for the next 10-15 minutes. They can't, but you know what I mean. Circle. James is probably like,
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
He's sitting up there now and being like, guys, do you remember back in the day when this was free and I was sitting there all by myself? And then they get sad. But he was down there earlier, had to disengage. Now they're playing here, and if you look at this, that is a pretty damn good spot to be in anyway. But obviously, circle shifts south. We all saw it. I mean, I saw it. I don't know if you guys watched the games. In 47, they try to play on the backside. Vasco swims across. They can go up in the what do you call it? Down here. They don't want to run in the open because they'll be exposed to the compound. So they jump in the water, get around, swim up down there. G2 crash. They end up getting killed. Nelo stays alive for a little while. Navi tries to do the same. Now it's Team Liquid's turn. Everyone that plays the north side here has to crash something. Look at this. DA crashing. Mithralia stays alive. G2 crashing. Nilla stays alive. I guess it doesn't really count with Navi because there's only one player going around, but they have to go through. Liquid, next circle pops. Look at this fucking shift. Oh, this is so bad. This is like the worst shift in PEL history. Liquid now have to crash. FaZe have to crash, technically, around the side. Ratio Edge has to crash. We see something along the lines of what the Twitch viewers call DA rotations or DA crash or whatever you call it. I think we see 6 or 7, and I know this game is an exception, but we see 6 or 7 teams go full YOLO compound crash or spot crash, whatever you want to call it, in this game. It goes to show how absolutely messed up this circle was. Also goes to show that even though PEL is predictable in its 90x amount of games, you have to always be smart and be ready to do something you weren't ready for. I mean, adaptability in PUBG is absolutely crucial. And yes, I know Liquid, I mean, they scouted the building and saw it was open, most likely. I saw no movement on the top of it. Doesn't mean that they know for a fact that it's going to be possible for them to like take it for free. Like, there's always a risk involved with breaching a building when there's a team in that compound. And also, by the way, guys, this is a small thing. Like, you guys don't care about this, but I have to say this. And I'm going to do it right now so the people watching the YouTube video will see it as well. I just realized, because normally I don't pay attention to these things when I'm streaming, but I can see it right now. Today is the first day, and let me just scroll through this. It just goes to show that what I do is like the people start to care more about competitive PUBG, and I love it. Today is the first day we have reached 100 viewers while doing these analysis without getting hosted by anyone. And I think that's amazing. So for those of you guys sitting out there watching, and this is not a praising to me or anything, this is just, I really like doing this, and I'm so glad that more people are starting to show interest in like the more in-depth competitive PUBG. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, this has steadily been growing. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, we maybe had 10, 15 viewers, and now we have over 100. Thank you so much, guys. This is just amazing. I'm so glad that so many people care about what I care about. Because I don't do this to get money or anything. I do these analysis things because I think they're really interesting, and I learn a lot from doing it. So the fact that you guys enjoy it too, that means a lot to me, man. It means a lot. Thank you so much. I'm not gonna go cry and thank my mom or anything. Thank you, mom. But it means a lot. So thank you. Thank you for being here and showing your interest. In any case, do I really need to draw it? You cannot play anything here except that rock. You can play this rock. This circle is absolutely horseshit. And one thing that I'm talking to the guy who developed this program quite often, and we are actually going to get, I don't know when it's going to happen, but at some point, hopefully soon, we're going to get smokes in the analysis too, because right now we cannot see that these guys are about to pull off a 600 IQ play. We can't really tell because all we see is them rotating. We don't really, it just seems like them running. But something really, really smart happens here, which we don't get to see because they're doing something smart. What happens here? Let me just go over it real quick. Currently, N47 are sitting behind a rock. The rock is here. In order for them to peek out, they'll be visible to the compound, and they needed to deal with FaZe in order to set up the play that they wanted to set up. Idle was on the other side. He goes down, but he crawls towards his opponents while he's knocked to provide the info. He goes down. FaZe is still there. There's no way, I mean, FaZe will gladly die and tank blue, making sure that N47 doesn't survive. So N47 needs to kill FaZe before they can do anything. And they succeed in doing that. Very impressive. Needed to get the kills. Now they can plan their play. And this, to me, even though it doesn't really give them a lot more, like they don't get that much more out of it, but it really, really pans out. Watch this. So right now, they're doing two things. T-Bone is throwing smokes. There's a tree. There. There's a tree here somewhere. T-Bone is currently throwing smokes in this direction. In the meantime, Paige is throwing smokes in this direction. New circle pops. Let me just see. Yes. in this direction. There's a rock down here. Let's draw that in green. And what happens now? Watch this. 2 different smoke paths have been lined up. T-Bone takes his vehicle. Hey, Ghost Star, thank you so much for the host, man. For all you guys that just came here, you're in for a treat in competitive PUBG 300 IQ plays right now. These guys know. They have this rock they're sitting behind. There's nothing they can do from here. There's nothing they can do from here. We need to do something creative. If we all go to this rock, we're fucked, because the rock is technically outside of the circle. If we both go to the tree, fucked, can't do anything. So what happens is they throw 2 smoke paths. T-Bone is running. Paige has a US. Obviously, a US driving, that's going to attract the attention from the teams that are inside the building, because they don't need to fight each other. Like, they don't, had one of the buildings been shifted out, had this circle been maybe more over here, I don't think Liquid would have cared too much about these teams. They would have been fully focused on making sure TSM didn't push towards them. So what happens here is Paige takes the car, as we can see, driving fast, up behind the rock. Okay, so the rock is up here, but you all know what I mean. The rock is here instead of there. In the meantime, while he's getting shot at by the entirety of Liquid and the entirety of TSM, T-Bone goes over towards the tree. What happens with this? And yes, the tree is there. I can't see where the tree is. I'm sorry, guys. But the tree is up there. Now, Paige obviously is going to die. He's not going to stay alive in the blue, in the position that he's in. T-Bone, oh no, it was there. Okay, thank you. T-Bone just had to run on a different angle towards the tree. T-Bone, now he's going to die to blue. He's going to deny the points. Mithralius is dead. T-Bone is now going to prone here for as long as he can. And that, my friends, is a very smart play where, well, technically, they got 1 placement better because Mithralius died, right? Mithralius would probably have helped holding them, as you can see. He could probably have helped holding them or sacrifice, but Paige spots him. That's a sacrifice play, and he gets to take him down before he dies. T-Bone gets to go for the circle. So Paige knows he's going to die anyway. Shoot at everything you can. Try and stay put. Once he realizes there's no way out for him, he just dies to blue. No reason to give them points because there was no way in hell he was going to get anywhere from there. T-Bone, in the meantime, is going to be proning outside. And now we get to the final circle crashing in. And this is where I think... I don't want to say Liquid played it wrong. This was a combination of... Remember, there's a rock out here somewhere. 1 rock. I think it's around there. I don't think Liquid plays this one wrong. I just think that TSM plays this one extremely well. What ends up happening is... Normally, what you would do if you guys are playing, your in-game leader says, hey, let's go to the rock. You have 3 smokes available. What do? 1, 2, 3. Now you're at the rock. Amazing. What they do instead is 1 downstairs, 2 downstairs, 3 upstairs. All of a sudden, now they can't only move in a straight line based on where they threw their smokes. They can now do anything because TSM or Liquid doesn't have any vision anymore. So what they do, after having thrown the smokes, you can see Michael trying to line up. They go to the, oh my god, the rock was further down. Okay, the rock is down there. The rock is down here somewhere. They now have a perfect position. Because they couldn't see anything, Rory gets to sneaky peekingly make his way up behind. Because while all of this has happened, Liquid has been throwing their smokes as well, right? So Liquid pushes out the back. T-Bone unfortunately gets spotted behind the tree. Does get a point more, but he goes down. Rory can now sneaky peekily make his way behind the opponents in their own smokes. Because they couldn't see him early. And they're fully focused. They're all thinking... Sorry, they're all thinking... There are going to be 3 TSM players behind that rock. We saw the car, we heard the car, we haven't seen anything else. There's going to be 3 guys behind that rock. So they are fully focused on making their way down in that direction. In the meantime, they get the first knock, full on tunneling down there. Rory gets taken down. Great reaction play as he starts. I think Rory actually starts shooting first, but EP sees him, turns around, gets the knock on him. Iroh wins it, gets 2 kills in the end. Very, very... I mean, it kind of fell apart, but that's just because Liquid is as good a team as they are. I mean, yes, TSM, very good team too. But when you have these teams where 1 missed bullet can be the difference in whether you win that fight or not, because, I mean, it's like Counter-Strike. both the teams can headshot the other guy. It's always about who gets to fire the first bullet. If you miss that first bullet in high-level Counter-Strike, because it's all, not all, but mainly about the shooting aspect of it, if you miss that first bullet, he will kill you. Like, if you don't hit the headshot first, he will hit the headshot first. And we're reaching a point with gunplay and the skill set that these PUBG players have as well, that is, if not the same, then really close to it. Rory, I believe, missed a couple of shots first on EB. That was the difference. EB wins the trade. You see here they trade. So you always have to trade 2-2, right? They push up together. EB gets down Michael. Iro gets down James. Traded 1-for-1. Makes perfect sense. They have the numbers. So now it's a 2v1. It's supposed to be Rory. Now you have your chance. This is where you make a play. He goes down. Unfortunately, misses the shots. Iro managed to clutch it anyway. But that's again a trade. It's a double trade. So EB shoots Michael. Iro is there to help. EB shoots Rory. Iro is there to help. Always have to set up these trade frag situations for each other. And even though I know there was a billion smokes and the situation was a little different, this is picture perfect how you want to do it. Completely how you want to do it. Very smart play on TSM's part, and also from reactionary, very impressive that James ends up getting Rory. Rory is a good shooter, don't get me wrong, but very impressive that Ibiza ends up finding Rory there. So that was game number 4. This video has taken so long as opposed to how long they normally take, but we've had this has been a good. This kind of analysis wouldn't work in the main production. I think it would. I would like to hear you explain why you don't think so. But anyway, we're going over to game 5. I mean, obviously, I would. Okay, I think I understand what you mean. TSM won the game. TSM won. I think I understand what you mean, but I wouldn't go in depth with every single fight and all the rotations. Yeah, exactly, Shift. You would never sit after every single game and spend 20 minutes per game and go over a game that just lasted 30 minutes. That would never happen. There's simply no time for it, and every game would last 1.5 hours instead of the time it does. That I agree with you. Completely agree with you. I agree with you completely about that. You would never have this full segment as part of the PEL, but you can use a lot of what is being done here the same way that I did at Grand Slam, the same way yes, exactly, Vicadell says that AMPR did at earlier than me as well. And then what I would have done, if we go back to the previous game, is instead of let me talk about, first we talked about where do teams drop, where do teams land. We went in depth with all of this, where they went instead. That I would probably have skipped, because even though it has impact, it's not that important. So what I could have said was, great, welcome to the Toby's whatever analysis. Obviously, we talk about this circle, how tough it was. Then we'd fast forward a little bit, talk about James maybe leaving the compound and what impact it had for the team. Talk about the situation where with this circle popped, everyone had to commit to it. And that you can do, I mean, I did it for Grand Slam, and you can do that in, I don't even know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And yes, I wouldn't be as in depth, but you I would be able to cover, or you can cover the essentials in that time. I believe so, at least. But nonetheless, let's go to the last game of the day for PEL. Game number 5 of week number 5. And thank you for everyone who's following. I currently have my follower sounds and all that off, because we're uploading all this to YouTube if you want to know where to go. Oh wait, we've actually... Guys, watch this. We now have this available. What? I messed something up. Anyway, I'll fix it afterwards. Let's not spend time doing that now. What did Hella say? I can't scroll for some reason now. Yeah, we'll do last game. Then we'll do the other stuff afterwards. Which players for Dream Team? Oh, that's a discussion we'll take after this game is over. Anyway, this match has started. Now let's see. Circle, Western this time around. I don't think anyone's gonna go inside this circle and stop before here, because once you're down here, yes, you can sit up on the hilltop. Once you're down here, if you go this way, you're gonna go either up here, here, here. I don't even know if you would play this area in this circle, but you could. Same thing from up here. You'd either go down again or maybe go over here. So this would be just this is just a highway that direction. Same thing up here. Highway that direction. Technically same thing here, but not a lot of teams drive around this way. So let's see what happens with teams rotating in. Anyone looting differently? 7 is back where they usually go to. We say that, but that's not where they usually want to go to. Phase. We don't have any mills of powers. There's going to be a little more teams over on the western side. Knights making their way back. DA splitting. Desperado splitting. Everything is pretty ordinary. I'll look through all the messages after this one is over, because this video has dragged out a little bit. Crow Crowd splitting up their loot. It's interesting that Misa is actually landing ruins. That used to be where Scoom goes to get the hard spawn and then run down to yellows, but he's doing that now. Teams are rotating forward, and once again, now Liquid, they do end up winning this fight, but we've talked about it many times before. 7 are, whether you guys think of 7 as a good team or not, making things really annoying for Liquid. This right here is not a split that we were used to see in the Western scene, which means that for Liquid, who normally doesn't have any issues rotating this way, before if they potentially run into the Gatka splitting team in Crow Crowd, or that used to be Windstrike, this used to never really be contested that much. And they are, even though they might be a better team than 7, they stumble across them. Same thing that happened to N47 in that first Miramar game of the day. And it happens here again. Now, Liquid doesn't lose any players here, but they very well could have. We know they like to play here. Now they see them leave, they go chase, they get 2 kills. No problem at all. But that could have been Liquid players going down, which in this case, it isn't. So 7 rotate with 2. They try to get away to the northern side of Quarry. Liquid push further forward as well. NIP come in from the north. Desperados come in from the north, go out to the coast. Both FaZe and Gamer Legion and N47 do the same play, but Page and the guys go back, seeing that Simsi is there. Makes perfect sense. You can only fit so many teams in on the shoreline. And the issue, the idea with this, I think, is that A, we've seen a lot of circles go over to the western side, and B, you don't want to get... I mean, the reason you go out there to begin with is to have more room to maneuver. And if everyone goes out there, then it's just going to be pointless. So 7 realize there's a lot of teams out there. They just go back where they came from. Makes perfect sense. Oh, not 7, but N47. So they go play a split, I would assume. Nope, they go 4 guys. Oh, they do split. They do split. Up against DA. End up losing players, unfortunately. DA splitting right on top of them. FaZe playing the back hill. They realize that Ratio Edge is pushing into the middle. Everyone is waiting for that next circle to pop. TSM making their way over from Georgia, from the military island. And circle goes north. Now on this circle, I would be surprised to see DA stay where they are. And we have a field here that you can't really play in because of this position. Being, I mean, also actually yellows. But these 2 positions being inside the circle still and being better than the field means that nobody's going to be in this field. You can't really rotate straight north to south in this circle either. You have a big wall. Let's put it this way. If you're in NIP's position and you want to somehow play this circle from the south, it's not possible. Big wall here. A swamp. A field with a compound at the end and a big hill that is suicide to drive through. So you would have to wrap all the way around the edge if you want to do anything, which is also normally contested with teams around there. And then you have that big field to drive through down here as well. So very difficult for teams to maneuver onto the other side of these sort of circles. And everyone is kind of making their way in, as you can see. Like once you're in this, once you're within these 2 roads. Oops. Once you're inside this, I don't know why I drew that, but you know what I mean. You've pretty much given up on rotating with vehicles in the future. If there's a lot of teams around you, yes, Liquid can leave with their cars down the hill, but you know what I mean. I mean, if you're looking inward in this area, then odds are that those vehicles will most likely not be used again. TSM, they realize they tried to wrap around the backside. They see Ratio Edge leaving the compound. You see them, they were driving at the exact same time. So they come up, Quarry. I'm looking at TSM right now. Quarry, scout further forward. They see the team go up to Quarry and they go, well, nope, let's not go contest anything here. They turn around and realize there's more teams down here than what they would have thought there'd be. Wrap all the way around, wait for that new circle to pop, and then see what you can get from there. So they timed their push pretty well with the new circle popping. And now they try to see if they can make a play somewhere. Forced into a bad position, Liquid is above them. They see Crow Crowd is over in the compound. TSM, they're in trouble. On the northern side, well, Squeaky and Mikas are in, so it should be easy enough rotation for Rustenman and Trifley. But what can you really scout from this position? You can see into Swamp, and that's about it. Yes, you can also scout over here, but you can't really. I mean, you can't move a whole lot, so they might be pushing over the top. We'll see. Face playing the west side exactly how you normally would if you have that coast spread out, take control, and then push in, not missing out on anyone. Now the circle hard shifts south. And that's where if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kind of 6, but not really, teams up on the northern side, as we said before, Swamp, Tough Road, Break. You cannot really with vehicles travel through any of this. You probably wouldn't use vehicles anyway. But all of this is very hard to get to and very hard to play from once they get there. So these guys pretty much all have to either wrap underneath there and jump out of the cars, crash up here, jump out of the cars, or do something similar. And if you're ends, crash into Swamp, don't use cars. Go down here, don't use cars. The only play that I could see anyone make, which would be a Crow Crowd situation, but because they're sitting in the center, they're not going to be the ones to do it, is from Ens's position, somehow try and see if you can play the circle from the south. But that would also be very surprising to me, because I would assume everyone to expect these areas to have people on them. So Mikas and Rustenman push further forward towards the shack. D8 sent it. G2 sends it as well. As I said, crash, crash. You can't scout it, you just have to go. There's no scouting at all, just full speed, drive forward. D8 goes down, G2 stays alive for a little while. N47, they have to crash as well. Ends crash into... So we just saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams crash spots which they couldn't really scout. NIP, they're trying to push forward on foot. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams inside the swamp. These guys up on the hills in the open. Circle shifts up towards them, but is that good or not? I don't really know, because Nelos and Yanis, 2 guys alive, can't do a whole lot from where they are. And I think what Liquid wants to do here is clear the east. Like clear this ridge line so that whatever happens, you can rotate that way, and you can always rotate that way underneath. Because this road, like you think, oh no, the compound is there, you're so dead. There's actually a lot you can play against the compound from below. You can play this side, you can play below them. I mean, of course, they're gonna nade you. I think that's what Navi does. They go up here. But there's a lot that you can play from down here, even though the compound is right above you. You can see all Navi players, they go down here. Liquid try to go across. I think Liquid goes across because they want to get a position on TSM. So EB and Gemty, they go over, wanting to get a better angle on towards the TSM players. But because Crow Crowd starts shooting, I think some of the Navi players start shooting up towards them, they're forced to turn around and go back. And they just say, you know what, we tried, didn't work, now let's get the hell out of here. Makes pretty good sense. All the fights escalate in the swamp, and again, all these engagements are a lot easier to really understand and analyze when we have, like, this pretty much becomes it kind of sort of becomes one of those Sanhok ending scenarios where it's so much easier and better to analyze when we can see the actual terrain and when we can see what the players see and all that, rather than having a map. But before we can get permission, I guess, to use the oh my lord, this circle, before we can get permission to use the clips from the actual game, then we're not gonna do it. Liquid keeps 4 alive. FaZe there 2 up on the side, so it's a 2-man solo 2, and FaZe they still have somewhat of the swamp to play around. Now they can try and wrap under, but they need, everyone knows eventually we have to get within line of sight of this compound. I mean, it's not going to be easy at all. They need to do something, and Na'Vi is on the eastern side too. Circle shifts up to Liquid. They don't have that much cover, but they do have enough to stay put. FaZe can't really run north around. They need to go either in or around the compound, so they try to push up. 8C gets in, makes hits on the wall. Na'Vi forced to crash the building, and in the meantime, Liquid can just be like, well, we have 2 opportunities here. A, or 3 technically, I guess. Opportunity A, crash the building, and they have some fun and see if we can get kills. Maybe we'll win, maybe we won't. That's probably the bad idea. B, push up, try and take a position and third party with whatever trees and stuff we have available. And C, let this fight end, and then whatever kind of survives from there, we can take and fight with later, because we're 4 alive, we have a good chance here. And what they do is they play it slow. They know these guys have to fight each other, push further forward. In all honesty, I think these guys fight much less than what you thought they were going to. But interesting nonetheless. Now the fights do come in as the building gets pushed out. Timmy threw a billion nades up towards the guys up here. I actually thought that they were going to get way more knocks than what they did. But Liquid managed to stay alive, holds them in the compound. And this is again a case where, as good as the compound is for cover, it also very quickly becomes a death sentence when the circle shifts away from there. That's where we've seen FaZe on Miramar, when the circle shifts away, are really good at spreading out to make sure they not get contained. Knights have done it really well too. Most teams have a pretty good understanding of when to leave and spread out from the compounds. But because there were 3 teams in there, nobody could leave. But guys, that was a long video today on PEL. Thank you for watching. If you're watching